Welcome to Adam and Steve, not
Adam and Eve.
the podcast where we bite the apple. All right, welcome to your one-stop shop of all gayness. How are you, Adam?
I'm good. I'm a little exhausted from the weekend, but
Well,
I'm good.
it was a holiday weekend,
Yes,
President's Day.
President's Day weekend.
Happy belated President's Day to you all, I guess. I mean, I'll take a holiday where I can take a day off. Mm-hmm. So, you know.
I'm here for it. It was fun, though.
Yeah, it was a good weekend. We got into some things, but we'll get into it in a minute. But yeah, before we go on, we have a returning guest with us.
Yes, we do.
So why don't you introduce our guest?
We got Sean Sullivan. Hi,
Hello.
Sean. How's it going?
It's going very well. Thank you for having me back.
Yes. He was originally on episode 48.
Yeah. So tell the garden hose a little bit about yourself again, real quick.
So I'm Sean Sullivan. I'm owner of the LGBT Venue of the Year, according to Bar and Nightlife Expo for 2020 and 2021. Only 2 years because of COVID. So we're actually passing on that title. And yeah, so I'm a serial entrepreneur in the LGBT community.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Sean's here to chop it up with us for a little bit. So we had President's Day weekend. What did you guys do?
Well, I had stayed in on Saturday. It was really exciting. And yesterday we went to an event at Hyde off of Sunset in West Hollywood, and it was part of the GPS events.
Yeah.
And that was really, really good. And Sean was actually there. And
funny enough.
it was really good. DJ Jarrock was spinning and his music was amazing, so it was a really fun night. And then afterwards I might have gone to reload the after hours for a little bit, so it was a little bit long of a night / morning.
No, I'm like the old lady that needs to go home at that point. I'm like, it's 4:00, I'm going home. Well, I didn't make that party. But I did make Sunday Fun Day, which was really fun. We did Heart and Revolver.
Mm-hmm.
Heart.
Oh yeah, we did go to Heart for a little bit.
Yeah, Heart, which it's going to be hard for me to start calling it Heart because it will forever be Rage to me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just hard. I did the Masterbeat party I guess I did Masterbeat and GPS on Saturday. We started at Masterbeat at the Stock Exchange downtown. I think that's what it's called. Or Exchange or what, I don't know. Anyways, it's a bank. It looks like an old bank inside. It's really cool though. Yeah. Like it's like an old bank. Yeah. But that party was called Fetish, so all the boys were like in their like harnesses and
which is like no different from any other sucker party.
You're right. It was like gay costume. You know what I mean? It's like
cosplay.
Right. It really is. It was like, I guess like the look can be cool, but for me, they're just most harnesses, not all, but most are just uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Like I am always like fidgeting and like, I guess I have to find the ones that aren't so, restricting, I guess, or constricting, I guess.
Or not cheap.
Or that. Well, that too. Like you might like
the real leather.
Right. Yeah. But those can be really expensive though, like the leather ones. But so I ended up doing that. And then we left and walked around the corner downtown LA, which is really fun, to the GPS party. Mm-hmm. And then about 4 a.m., while everybody else was going to reload, I went home and got in bed. Mm-hmm.
Good for you.
Yeah, I know. Look
a
at me.
Pat on the back.
I know.
Adulting.
I know. Well, to be honest, everybody's going to reload that night, but I don't know. Reload for me, it's rare that I go, but it's very, it's intense.
Yeah, and then especially on a night like that, on a Saturday after a main event.
Right.
It's very, very, very packed.
Yeah.
Very packed.
I couldn't.
It becomes a bit much.
Yeah.
But what about you, Sean?
What about me?
How was your visit in LA so far?
My visit in LA has been exhausting, which is what it usually is, whether I'm here for a day or a week. So much to do. Mm-hmm. I mean, I also have family here, so
that
for
always
me,
makes
I always
it more busy.
have to prioritize my family.
Right.
And I have a cute little 18-month-old niece, so I have to spend time with her, and I adore my sister, so we're just trying to. But they're in the South Bay, which I'm always, I live in downtown Oakland.
Yeah.
And right above BART, and my partner, who you might know,
was on the last episode.
Yeah, episode 47.
Check it out if you haven't.
He works for BART, and so we are, we take public transit everywhere we can, and things are closer. And so a trip here yesterday was from Redondo was an hour, where today it was just a simple 32 minutes. So it's hard for
I'm
me.
surprised
It's
you
hard to
made it at
gauge the
32
time.
minutes.
Yeah.
That's shocking. 32 minutes. Well, speaking of, like, on last weekend was Super Bowl Sunday, and I had somebody visiting, and they were actually flying back to their home in Vancouver about like 5:30. So I had to drop him off at the airport. I made it to LAX, dropped him off, and back home within an hour. That never happens.
Yeah, never.
Ever. But everybody was watching the Super Bowl. So it was just like, I was like, why can't the streets be like this all the time? Like, it was
leave it to the gay who's like, okay, I can take it. I can.
I'll drop you off during Super Bowl, sure. I made it back, and I went to the bar and made it there before halftime show. And let's be clear, that's all I care about is the halftime show. I just want to see Mary J. Blige.
What else there was for a gay to see? I don't know. I still haven't seen it because I was busy producing a party, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But that was my focus. I had a drag brunch to produce in the morning, and then skedaddle out of there over to San Francisco to produce a tea dance.
Oh,
yeah.
So you didn't get to see
I still haven't seen the halftime show.
Well,
I liked it.
Me too.
I
It was
liked
like old school good.
Yeah, it was a lot of like
Yeah.
hip hop, but it was they played some. It was good
Yeah.
songs.
It would
fun.
definitely be songs and
And it would like the set was fun.
Yeah.
It was cool.
it was fun. So, I mean, clearly I only care about the halftime show and that anyways. Well, most of the time. It's just a halftime show.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to get your opinion on Heart. Heart and WeHo, the new bar.
Rage.
AKA formerly known as Rage.
I'm like Rage. I'll always call it Rage.
I was just there for a short period of time, and drinking mostly, and I liked it quite a lot. I felt like there's certain design elements that are really appreciated. I like how it says Heart on the building. So I thought, they're painting it all like black lacquer.
Yeah.
What's the theme? What's the feeling going to be as it translates to opening up inside? And they kept those garage style doors, so it's like really open onto the street, which is something that is really unique to West Hollywood, I think. And so I liked it in part. I was also partly part of my agenda of being here was to meet Paul Nichols, who I know just through the circuit scene and the business community, who is a great event producer and also is a partner in Rocco's and now the Heart. So I was just happy to see him thriving.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
It's a cool place. Like for me, like I said, it's always like Rage to me because I used to be there so much when it was Rage because my roommate used to work there at the time. But it's great to see life in that space again, and like people really enjoying it and
just something fresh and like just for like new to go to. Like,
well, it's
it's
a club. It's like a disco.
Yeah.
I love that feeling, like being inside and feeling like I'm in a real like disco club, So it's kind of cool.
And it was a club at like 4:00 on a Sunday. Like it was raging inside.
Yeah,
as much as I would think of a place at like midnight on a Saturday.
Yeah, it was. It was
busy.
It was, but we're gonna have to talk about those drink prices. So they need to stop. Like, if you're gonna charge me that much, they'll give me a bigger drink. That's my
or put more alcohol in it.
Right,
something.
It was
well. On your next trip to Oakland, Stephen, I would like to tell you that you will not find drink prices like that at the port, or you will, but they will be doubles.
Well, okay,
But I do understand their well is premium, like Grey Goose is your vodka, but and that is good, whatever model they're going for. For us, what I found, and Oakland was originator on the craft cocktail scene, but that's not really what the gays are coming for when they come for partying. And there is spaces for that, but it's not really what gay bars are known for. We're known for community, or at least I hope we are. But they having a good time,
right?
But I found early in our experience at the Port Bar that people don't really care what's in your well.
Yeah.
They just want a good drink at a cheap price. And I understand that. And that's what I try to meet people at. So we have a very basic well. And it's
Well, I think that you kind of should have a basic well. And if somebody wants something premium, you ask for it.
Yeah.
You know, because when somebody wants something like that, they're very specific, right? They'll ask for the Grey Goose, or they'll ask for...
so.
Well, and I think that like premium being or well being Grey Goose is a very LA thing.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know. I can't speak for a bunch of other cities, but or maybe New York is like that too. You know.
Specific.
Yeah.
I'm fine with Tito's.
That's what I was getting yesterday.
And is that even like considered? I mean, I guess it's not premium, but
I don't know, but
it's
I like
better
it.
than some wells.
It's premium at a call price. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that. It's really good. And that's what I was ordering because I was like, wow.
So wait, if you were ordering Tito's, were they still like $17 a drink?
Remember,
And that's part of the problem. And that's part of the problem. We don't look at our tickets anymore. Like I know because it's better not to look.
Yeah.
You know, after your first drink,
charge it.
Yeah,
Figure it out
it's
later.
like I'm not even going to look at it.
Once you get a little bit drunk, you're just like,
Yeah.
oh, well, whatever.
I know. It was like I drank there, and then like I went to Revolver, and I bumped into a kid and dropped his drinks, and then I had to buy him a drink. I felt so bad.
You're like, oh,
Good for you.
But, you know, it was so funny that I did that because I was like, oh, my God, I am so sorry. Let me buy you a drink. I just dropped your whole drink. And
it
he
sounds
was
like a pickup line.
No,
a
he
pickup
was
thing.
He was complete. I mean, he's cute, but he was completely shocked because he's like, I can't believe you're doing that. Like, it's so nice of you. I was like, I just felt bad, you know, doing that. So I bought him a drink.
I think that's etiquette.
Yeah, you knock someone's
drink
drink
over.
over.
It's yours
I
now.
felt so bad. And well, at least the drinks at Revolver weren't like
Or I would
$17,
like go up
but
to the
still.
bar like with him and just tell the bartender like, hey, FYI, I accidentally spilled this person's drink, and then maybe they would just give him another
Oh,
one.
maybe. I didn't think of that. But I bought him
Probably
a
not
drink.
in LA,
Yeah,
but
no, I felt bad because
Don't try that at the Port Bar there. This is not. This
You're
is
like,
not
it ain't gonna
Starbucks,
work.
okay?
Right. Well, I felt bad, so I bought him a drink because I knocked his drink over, and it was only fair. I thought.
yeah.
You know.
Well, good for you.
So look at
at
see, I do
you.
good deeds.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Every once in a while.
Every blue moon, I do something. You know. Good.
Yeah. But
I don't know. Anyways, but you know, it's nice to see the bars thriving, especially after all this COVID stuff. And you know, I'm glad you guys are doing well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It has been a hard slog, for sure.
Yeah.
Now we no longer have the mask mandate, which was kind of funky to begin with because people don't want to wear them. And
Well, you don't want to wear them in a bar.
no. And so it's really interesting for us with that experience because you're supposed to insist people wear them if they're not actively eating or drinking. But what does that mean, right? So
Right.
we have
That's just suck on a glass of water.
well,
all the whole
yeah.
time.
So we there's another venue of which I patronize and might do events there, so I won't name. But they're quite lovely. But I had gone to see shows there, and someone would tap me on the shoulder and be like, "Sir, you need to have your mask on." And I said, "Well, I'm drinking." They're like, "The straw needs to be in your mouth." And I was like, "Oh, so we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're not doing that at the Port Bar." But mostly we're not doing that also because, as Richard could tell you, there was a time when our security guard needed a break or deal with something. So he stood at the door and he told a patron, "Oh, you need to put your mask on." And they threw a drink on him.
oh Jesus.
And then there
That's
was
so
another
dramatic.
time that the security guard was getting, buff from somebody about the same issue about wearing their mask, and he intervened to try to de-escalate and support her, and the person punched him in the chest.
Oh, jeez.
So after that, we were like, the signs are up.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
not, unless the county health is going to station a police officer, which
No.
we don't want here. But like, how are we going to enforce this when people are so vitriolic against it?
I mean, it's kind of like at this point, right? We have to learn to live with COVID, right? Because it's not going anywhere. But it's like if you are checking my vaccination, if I'm boosted and as I enter, then it's kind of like, really? Like I get the mask thing, but I'm over it. I'm just going to say I'm sick of wearing one at the gym. I am over it. I mean, I do what I'm supposed to, but my God, when are we going to get to a point to where we don't have to? Especially at places where you're being checked. if you're, vaxxed and all
I
that
agree.
kinds of stuff. That's the thing. It's like when you go to the gym, they put it in the system.
Well, I'm like a little annoyed right now that the mask mandate in California has been lifted as of February 15th.
Yeah, but we still have to wear 'em,
but we
right?
still have to in LA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like LA, it's been the most strict this whole time.
Like, I get it if you want me to wear in the grocery store or, doctor, whatever. I get certain places, but it's just, like, I can't work out with one anymore.
Yeah.
I'm so tired.
Well, it's not good for you either. You're like breathing into a small space. But anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my rant.
Yeah. So with that being said, we're kind of going into, Port Bar and whatnot. We'll just get into the episode with you and your story. I guess I always like to kind of have a bit of a backstory with the person. So, where you're from, how you got to where you're at, and how the Port Bar became a thing.
The Port Bar. Well, so I'm originally from New York City, and that was a great place to grow up in the 80s and 90s.
It was just gritty, too.
It was
in
so
real
gritty.
New York.
It's so gritty. It's, like so many things, if you weren't there, you don't know. If you New York was such a different place. Like, Times Square now, where I can't even imagine what the rent is for like this little, acai bowl place. Is it that place is where I got my fake ID, where I walked in like at noon on a Wednesday and just walked up to the counter and said, I would like to get a fake ID. Here's my $15, which was a lot of money for a college kid at the time. And just stand you in front of this thing and take a picture.
Yeah.
And now, my gosh, it's just like, it's so very different as things evolve. But that was my growing up experience and going to, the clubs as they were then. People used to dress up, and then we also had this element of people called club kids who were changing the scene, and those kids were profiled on national TV as like changing things because they were like all openly bisexual. Like it was sort of like, but they were gay.
Yeah, can we go into a little bit more of just what like a club kid was? Because
Well,
I feel like some people might not know.
Yeah, so so at that time, a lot of people would dress up to go out, and I think in certain elements that stayed with us for a long period of time. But in these clubs, these kids would wear like flare pants, and they would wear silver pants, and they brought back bell bottoms for a period, and they'd have like colored hair, which is now commonplace,
It's
but
so
that
common
wasn't.
now,
And
makeup, all kinds of crazy makeup and just crazy costumes.
Crazy costumes. And they, they were profiled on, like, Joan Rivers had a daily talk show, and Geraldo Rivera, and they were profiled on these shows as, I remember Richie Rich, who I've come to know, and who went on to become a famous fashion designer with Heatherette, and is now relaunching as Richarette, that he, like, I think the moniker under his name on one of the talk shows was wants to sleep all day and party all night. I was like, it's so comical now to look back on it. Like, he didn't think that's how you're going to live the rest of your life, or no one really thought at that time you were going to live the rest of your life. But also for openly queer people at the time, the backdrop to all of this grittiness was that people were dying left and right in our community. Yeah. And so you didn't know, frankly, if you were going to make it to 25, never mind 50, or think about your life in a long-term way, because we had so many people around us just passing away, just getting sick. Everybody knew someone as you come out. And I just, remember as a kid growing up in New York, which, Stonewall is like, that's where the areas in which I partied in. But you would think it would be more accepting or progressive. But I just remember at that time when I was in high school, it's not like today where there's support groups. There would be people who'd be like, well, if you want to choose that lifestyle, you see where it leads, you're going to die. It's like, oh, like, you just choose a paint color off a shelf. Like, well, I've chosen the homosexuality and it leads to death.
Right. Like, you have a day left.
Yeah. And so that was kind of a dark time of things to, it was hard to come out. It's always hard to come out, and everybody's struggle is different, but it was a really beat of a different type going on at that time. And that's why I also have a great admiration for RuPaul, because when I was a kid in college, RuPaul came, like, you could see RuPaul at the clubs back before she was, who she was. And then Supermodel of the World came out, and you were like, Oh my gosh, they're on TV with all the supermodels, which is a thing at the time.
Yep.
Of the world, and then there's this beautiful, tall, black, blonde drag queen, and making it like teaching children that this is okay to be gay, and it was nothing like I'd ever experienced before. And to see them continue to thrive over these decades has really been great. And I think one of the things that I became important to me is creating safe spaces for people. So in New York, after college, I worked for Covenant House, which helps homeless and at-risk kids. 40% of the homeless youth population are queer kids.
Yeah.
And so working there was very important for me. I worked for them in DC, and then I came out to Oakland about 20 years ago and went back to work for them and expanded their services, and bought Jerry Brown, our governor. He was the mayor of Oakland at the time, bought his personal home and turned it into a shelter for 30 kids. And now it's expanded over the years since I've left to be able to serve larger numbers, which is awesome. But, for me, being able to provide safe spaces was so important based on the sort of the scene that I was growing up in.
Yeah.
And that isn't normally a natural outflow into starting a bar or a gay bar. But my mom, when I was in college, was divorced and became single with 3 kids and started a business to support herself in the service industry and providing staff to events and so forth, where you've rubbed shoulders with all these amazing, great gay people. And that's how I learned to become a bartender. So I always had this skill on the backside.
That's a good skill to have.
It is.
It is. Everybody can use a good drink,
Right.
Well, but you could also pick up jobs in a lot of places when you have that skill. So
Yeah, it's a recession-proof
it really is.
career. And so, I always had that background. And even when I worked for Covenant House in DC, I would work private parties. And I would work private parties mostly for gay clientele. Some of those parties, they wanted different things, but I was just there to pick drinks. So,
what things?
I know. I don't know.
Please elaborate.
Well, I was sort of left alone because I am who I am. And at this point in my life, I'm comfortable with it. But I've never been that guy that was going to take off his shirt and was going to be getting cards or money for that. I was getting any tips were based on the quality of the alcohol. Thank you very much.
I would have probably had my shirt off.
You probably would have had your shirt off. So anyway, so that was that. So that was my thing. And also I had thought, one of my things with Covenant House is always trying to network. And so I didn't also want baggage attached to that of what I was trying to do for kids.
Also, back then you had to be a little bit more careful about things like that. Now everybody's like, whatever's whatever. You know what I mean? Everybody's naked on all their profile pictures, their Instagram, Facebook. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But back then we were not like that.
Right.
You know, so there was a little different of
a lot of
time.
discretion.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
So then, I lived and loved in Oakland, and I just had heard so many people over the years said, I'm going to start a gay bar. I'm going to start a gay bar. And it just never happened and materialized. And as I think Richie said, in 2012, he ran for school board and I ran for city council.
Okay.
And we have this thing, I don't know if you have it in LA, but ranked choice voting. So after the first 5 rounds of voting, I was number 1. In the 6th round, I lost. So I have to explain it to this day to a lot of people as to why I'm not on city council. But but after that, we decided we were very fortunate to be able to take about 6 weeks off, travel, and then we tried to plan our next steps, what we wanted to do. And we both together started a consultancy to help nonprofits and fund development and communications. And then he got recruited away from his own startup to go work for BART. And I started working on the Port Bar because actually that was what my passion was to create a spot in downtown Oakland. There was one large club that was sort of split in 2 levels. One focused on the Latino community, mostly monolingual Spanish speakers, and the other mostly on Oakland's African American community. But then that was it. And I never felt like there was a place that brought all the different types of people. Like our mayor calls Oakland's secret sauce our diversity. And I think that's very true. Oakland is a very diverse city. And that's one of the reasons I've loved living there, because coming from New York City, there's very diverse when I was growing up. And so I felt well fit in Oakland, but there was so many times we just didn't want to have to cross the bridge. And this was, before Uber when I started working on this. And it's hard to believe because it's so commonplace now, but like it would be hard to get a cab home. Yeah. Because our transit system doesn't run 24 hours. And so how are you going to get home? Unless you met a certain person on a night, but you don't always plan for that, or you don't want to have to lower your standards.
But sometimes we do.
But just to make it on the 6 o'clock train. But so we wanted something different, and I'm a firm believer in creating the world that you want. And so I decided with this background in the service industry to make a go of it, and it turned out to be a hit.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I've been to the Port Bar quite a few times now, and I have to say I've always had a really great time there.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, I've never had a bad time.
I like that you guys do nonprofits.
Yeah,
like that you did that. I've always wanted to do that, or maybe work. Well, I don't know if I want to work for one because they may not be able to pay me decently, but
volunteer.
Yes, we will do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, volunteer, because that's really important. And I always say this, so I actually have to put it into play that we need to volunteer more. I always say this to Adam too. Like, we need to volunteer more because at the end of the day, we're fortunate. Yeah, we really are. So we need to do that much more often. I've been actually looking at the Gay and Lesbian Center to maybe like do something there. So I just think sometimes we forget. You know what I mean? Like you get so caught up in your own life.
Yeah, exactly. You get caught up in daily life, work, this and that, and then if you are stressed with work, it just like kind of
But we got to do better. We can always find time.
Yeah,
you can always find time.
We can
always find time. So you said you had the Port Bar for 5 years.
5.5 years.
5.5 years.
Yeah.
And that you said there was one other place.
So there was one other place.
So has there been more in Oakland that have opened up?
So they subsequently closed in 2019. And then since the pandemic, there's also the White Horse, which claims it's the oldest LGBT venue in the country. So there's some other place in New Orleans. So I don't know who's right. But it's that bar is on the border of Oakland and Berkeley. And so we just felt like Oakland needed another venue. And we wanted to put it in some, in the heart and soul of downtown, and have it be transit accessible. Now, since then, there have been, the person who was a marketing director of that one large club that closed has started their own Latinx-specific club called Quirico. And when they opened, the Bay Area Reporter, which is our queer newspaper in the Bay Area, called me to come and get the gossip. But I was only super supportive of them because I think actually we do better when we have more spaces. We do better as a community. But we as a business do better too, because I feel like I'm not competing against, because for 5.5 years I've established who we are, right? And people know what they're going to get when they come. And in this short period of time, somehow we got this national award from the nightclub and bar industry. So more spaces are welcome because my competition is not the guy down the street. It's the Castro that people are jumping on BART to, or in an Uber to, because they can go there, and if they don't like X location, they go to Y location, and there's Z, and then there's, so there's so many choices, and so they can choose, they can choose a Castro, they can choose the Soma community, which is more like leather bars and a little bit more gritty, and alternative, and so that's my competition. So what I would, there's always talk about the places opening up too, and before the Port Bar, there was always talk of places opening up and didn't. So, because I know how hard it is, having done it now. But I encourage other entrepreneurs to do it because it would be great to keep those people. And to that end, I'm actually working on a new venue that we're calling Fluid 510 that will be about 5 blocks away on Broadway. So we're on Broadway at 20th, and this will be at Broadway at 15th. And, when I was saying about growing up in New York, one of the things I loved is I worked for Covenant House, which was in Chelsea, which is sort of like the epicenter of gay life in Manhattan in the 90s. And that within walking distance were all these gay bars. And then there was like a bar in this corner, and then you walked one block down and a corner over, and then there was another bar, and then you walked one block down to 6th Avenue. So there was all this kind of thing. And so I know the value of that. I saw the value of that and lived it. And I would love to be able to provide that for queer people in the East Bay in California, so that they can have that kind of experience. You don't always have to drive, right? And you know, drinking is a serious thing too. So I like people to be able to park for hours and be able to do what they want to do, and then sober up, and then
try to make it home.
Yeah.
Wait, I have a question. Wait, so you guys have still like a local gay newspaper that comes out
in the Bay Area? It's called the Bay Area Reporter. I don't know if it actually comes out in newspaper anymore because they haven't delivered since COVID.
So it's just online?
It's online.
Okay. I mean, don't you like? I miss like whenever you'd go into like any of the gay like establishments, and there would be like the gay magazines and newspapers. I kind of miss that.
I do miss that.
You know what I mean? Like
I do.
I like looking through those and seeing the ads and.
Well, I remember as a young queer person in New York, right? Being like using those magazines, like even in a bar because no one's talking to you. So you and you're like, I'm not talking to you either. Nobody's. I'm reading about what's going on in our magazine. Yeah. And so now people just all stare at their phones.
Right. We stare. I remember in Texas, we had one called Twit. It was called This Week in Texas. It was all the gay scene.
Twit?
It was called Twit.
That sounds like a naughty word.
It was. I know. That's why. And it was like this. It would come out every week. And it had everything, you know, that was happening in all the bars all throughout Texas. And it would have pictures and stuff. You're like, oh, my God, you're in Twit. But again, it's great to have that, like the community and all that kinds of, you know, good stuff. But times have changed. We don't really have that. Question though, what made you move to Oakland from New York?
So I could shorthand it and say that like I worked for Covenant House in all 3 cities, but actually love at the time. I met this French boy in New York, and I didn't think anything was going to happen with that, and it did. But then I still went to DC, and then we didn't think. Like I thought, okay, well, now I live in DC. Nothing's not going to keep going on, and then it did. And then he applied for business schools. He applied to Harvard, Wharton, and Stanford. And I said, well, if you go to the East Coast schools, I'm not coming. Like I'm not, you know.
No.
Yeah.
But then he got into Stanford, and I was like, well, I mean, you could make me move to San Francisco, and so that I did. So then I moved out here to the Bay. I moved out to California. I moved to the Bay Area.
Okay.
That didn't last much more than a year, but that's okay. He was a wonderful person. We got along, and we got along for years. He now lives in Chicago with his husband.
Yeah.
And I went to the wedding, right? So it was like it was all cool for years, and it was meant to happen. So that's what brought me out, and I was happy to restart another opportunity with Covenant House and go to Oakland, and that's the only way that I would have. Like, there's already a great organization in San Francisco called Larkin Street, which deals with the homeless youth population there, but there was nothing in Oakland, and they had actually just started it. And when I was in New York, one of my responsibilities was helping new programs get started around the country, fundraising-wise. And I remember, where is Oakland? I had to like look at it up on a map at that point. I'm like, where? Oh, okay. And then the same year, Jerry Brown ran for mayor, and then all of a sudden it became, you know, like because he had run for president, he had been the governor, has a little star quality given to it. So it was like, oh, okay, there's all this momentum there. And then I moved there.
That's interesting. I always find it very interesting how one decision changes like the whole like trajectory of your life.
Yeah,
like,
it's insane.
It's right. I just always find that.
I guess it's just part of your journey, though.
Right. It's like, what if I turned left on that street?
Yes.
Seriously.
All right, that's interesting.
I remember. Well, when at first we lived in San Francisco, and then I would go to Oakland every day. Like I'd wake up and it'd be gloomy. Like, oh, this is San Francisco, okay. And then I would drive over to the East Bay, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so warm, and it's so
sunnier.
So it's a microclimate, and it's really like you know, the areas that you know in San Francisco, like Union Square and the Embarcadero. 15 minutes of that is downtown Oakland, and it can be a completely different climate.
15 minutes from that? I didn't know you guys were
it's
that
a short
close
drive.
to like downtown San Francisco.
Yeah, it's just a short.
It's not far.
No.
It's not far,
I didn't
but
know it was
yeah,
that
it's
close.
definitely like a little bit nicer in terms of weather over there. I'm like, oh, okay. This is San Francisco's a little gloomy. So.
You know how I feel.
There was one day I remember driving. It wasn't a unique day, but something snapped in my mind, and it was like, "Oh, this is it." Where I was in my car, and you hit Treasure Island, and that is somewhere where sometimes the weather changes, and it's like once I got past Treasure Island onto the other side of the Bay Bridge, it was ensconced in fog, and by the time I got home, it was wet and it was cold, and I was like, I don't have to live like this.
I'm not doing this.
I could like live and work.
Absolutely not necessary.
I'm not doing this. that would be me. Sometimes you just have that moment.
Yeah.
Like you're just like, you know what? This is it.
Yeah.
And I feel like Oakland's come a long way over the years. I don't really know a lot of the history behind it, but
I've never been, but I have been to.
maybe you can speak more to that.
Well, yeah, I mean, Oakland definitely has changed over the years. For some, it's not great, but for others, I think it's living up to its promise. And that, like, when last time I talked to you, it was before we did this party, Love, the circuit party after Pride Fest, and someone's like, "Oh, you're going to do a venue here." And it was a test runner for me of that venue of like, oh, am I going to sign a lease? So we're going to do things here. Would this work? And that all proved true because I had a great producing partner for that. But someone said to me, "It was like, oh, you really get the beat of like what's going on for like you can see into its future of like what it needs and so forth." And I was like, "Oh my God, I guess so." Like I didn't know that.
That's like a thing though.
But I was like, okay, yeah. So I am a bit of a cultural connoisseur of like what's going on, and I am able to pull people together, which I'm super excited about. And so I've seen a great change in the time that I've been in Oakland. There's been a lot of building. There's been a lot of displacement. There's been a lot of creation of homelessness, which is sad for me as someone who worked to provide shelter and safe spaces for homeless kids, at least. But I think that's something actually we're seeing nationwide. So it's not just Oakland. We're seeing gentrification. We're seeing a lot of increased homelessness and increased suffering, and it's
alarming.
agonizing.
It really is.
It's been worse with COVID.
It's been magnified. But what I just try to, I believe I can be part of a change. And I try to do the very best that I can with like what I have at the time and where I'm at. And so for me, creating another venue is part of that, right? It's giving queer people another opportunity to be in this space. And so we came with the name Fluid because it's really recognizing Generation Z is sexually fluid, is gender fluid, and just the opportunity for people who don't identify as queer but interact very naturally with queer people is sort of how they've grown up now is very different experience. And we want to give a venue that celebrates all of that.
Yeah.
And the venue would be used for just any type of events or
Yeah, so it's going to be a daily bar and lounge.
Gotcha.
And then it's over 5,000 square feet, so which is triple the size of the Port Bar. And one of our challenges has always been people want to do events, queer events. It's not a venues for it. And so this would provide that opportunity for other people to come in and program and for us to program larger events. Like it's been my absolute thrill over the growth of the 5.5 years to get to work with the amazingly talented queens who have been on RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that. I want to go into that because I've seen some of the drag shows there, and they're just like amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and
you have
right before
great queens.
Right before COVID, Martin Luther King weekends 2020, the Vixen came with Dita Ritz and produced Black Girl Magic, and it was one of the biggest nights we'd ever had at the Port Bar, for our Sunday night drag show anyway, and people were. In the back room of that space, they could go 15 deep, but that didn't mean the queens were getting that money, right? Because you couldn't go all the way back. It was so packed.
Yeah.
And since COVID, one of the blessings of it has been that we've been able to move things outside. We were able to build a parklet and a parking spot and put seats on the sidewalk. And and it just brings in so many more people, and those people also can tip.
And people that are walking down the street as well.
That is such a joy.
Like they just will be like, oh, well, look, there's a drag show literally
There's
happening
a drag
outside
show in the middle of Broadway
Yeah.
in downtown Oakland, and it is really a game changer for the city.
Mm-hmm.
And even our mayor was saying that, nightlife had a conference of mayors between her and London Breed. Was saying that Oakland is thriving at night, and in a way that people hadn't thought about. And I know that we are part of that because her mom is a friend, and her mom goes to the symphony next door. And when she finds it not that exciting, she offers to buy her husband a drink, and she comes and she
comes
is
to the poor part. She's like,
the mayor, just like Beyonce's listening, probably my mayor's listening to this, but maybe not. But her mom is a big tipper to the
You
to
never know.
the go-go
You never
dancers.
know.
You never know.
You never know.
Big tipper to the go-go's. So that's funny. But she said she came out of there when the symphony, they had Debbie Allen at the symphony. Oakland Symphony is always trying new things. And they had her, and so the mayor left with her mom, and she's like, and you've got the box outside now, and there's some guy in a G-string dancing on a box. She's just like, I just loved it.
yeah.
And I think Oakland celebrates that because we've always been diverse and queer and welcoming. But like to have it out on Broadway, drag queens.
Yeah,
and so,
it's like not very common out there.
right.
And
so, there's a video yesterday posted on Instagram stories, which you can probably see most Sundays, is Amor Ortiz, who's our resident drag queen, out stopping traffic in Broadway.
Yep.
I love
Totally.
that.
Doing
I-
the death
middle of
drop
the
off.
street.
Drag brunches have just really, really taken up. And it's so funny because the other day I think it was last week, I was having lunch at High Tops, and across at Beaches, the drag queens were jumping on the cars in the street. we're like, y'all think you're in Miami doing that.
Yeah.
But it was so fun and cute to see. And I'm like,
People like that.
but drag brunches are really, really taking off.
Yeah.
Like they are really just turned into like this thing.
yeah, it's because it's fun.
Yeah,
It's fun.
It's
really
fun.
has.
It's not just like brunch anymore.
Yeah.
Like drag brunch is
Yeah.
like a whole personality.
It's a production.
Yeah.
It's a great production, and
Yeah.
I'm grateful to provide it. And you mentioned Miami because Palace
Yep.
is this wonderful,
Palace is amazing.
amazing space. And I've actually had some of the Palace girls to Oakland.
Those
to
girls know how to
perform.
put on a show.
Oh, well, they're like gymnasts.
Yeah.
They will
Yes.
climb
Gymnast
up and down
drag
those palm
queens.
Yes.
trees.
And they're flipping and the
Yeah.
tabletop. Oh, my goodness.
Those girls know what's up.
When I've seen them and I've seen the quality of what we're able to provide and to see the community engagement, like there's a Latin focused, you have it here, Mi Tierra coffee shop, but it's very like Latin flavored coffee drinks and horchata mixes and so forth.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of Latin families that will park their cars or walk past our space, and we'll have to stop to watch the show, or we'll come out from there with their drinks and like be watching the show and be like, oh my God. And we have a lot of Latinx queens. So there's a lot of bitty bitty bum. There's a lot of Selena.
A lot of Selena going on.
And so they relate to that, and then they're like, oh,
Right.
so you see, like, it's great to be able to provide that kind of breakdown in the community of like different cultures merging and like people just finding it like it great. And there's so many passersby, even somebody who, it's not safe, but somebody who stopped their car to get out, like stop their car in the middle of the lane to get out and give a drag queen a tip who was circling the parklet. Like
That person was like, I have got to stop.
I was like, wow.
That's
You could have
great.
made a reservation, but
Right,
you just
okay.
decided to do that.
Now, if
so-
that should happen in LA, I don't know.
Well, that's why we
because
were
then, like
laughing.
everybody would freak out. But Oakland, I think, can get away with.
Well, that's why
maybe
we were
stopping the car.
laughing when we saw that happen, because we were like, okay, like this is Santa Monica. She stopped this car
Yeah,
and got on
Santa
the hood. We were
Monica
like, I
Boulevard.
don't know if that's safe.
Like these people are gonna freak out.
Right. But
Yeah.
everybody was cool about it. And I was like, okay, well, that was good to see. She didn't die. So, no, that's really cool. I'm glad that you guys are like just having a community spot, because that's really good to have like a safe haven.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of people don't get that.
They don't.
And where I grew up in such a small town in Texas, I couldn't be out at the time. And it would have been nice if there was like somewhere to go, you know what I mean? Where you felt safe and you run into other people that were like you, you know, because it's always very important to see people who are like yourselves.
Yes.
You know, and that's why you guys being diverse is a great thing, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, I was here last time before we did Pride Fest and before we did Love the Circuit Party. And we produced it right out in front of the Port Bar on Broadway. And one of our regulars, he'd never talked about this before. He's 37, and he said, you know, I remember 20 years ago, you could not walk down Broadway in Oakland openly holding your same-sex partner's hand. You would be heckled, you would be hit, and nobody would do anything about it. They'd be like, well, why are we so stupid to do that there, right? Because like what we were talking about earlier about that New York was a different place. All these places are different. But even 20 years ago, that even Oakland, while it being accepting, that would not have been okay. Like, and here we were, shutting down Broadway in the middle of a Sunday to do this big gay event. And so that really touched my spirit because I thought it redoubled why I wanted to do the new venue and make things happen there. It also, we'd had problems with Pride, the organization in the past, being just a few people and no being able to know if it ever made a profit or a loss or where the money went, all those kind of things.
Sounds like LA Pride.
Well, you know, unfortunately, a lot of this seems to go on with events, and it just too few people know what's going on. And I think we live now in a space like, you know, there's Google Docs. You can share your stuff so much with so many people. You can make it more transparent.
You got to be transparent now.
And so we are in the we did create an organization that's fiscally sponsored by the LGBT Center of Oakland, and their ED is on our board. And it's a diverse board also of people who are both all LGBT people who either work or live in Oakland, and the head of the Black Trans March is on there, as well as some other queer business owners, including myself. And I've said into the paperwork when they called me, I was like, ultimately, I shouldn't be involved. Or, you know, just call me to write a check. And if I can, I will. But, like, I'm happy to use my nonprofit experience and my fundraising experience to make this event happen, as I did last year and as I can this year. But there is a incentive there for me to have a Pride event going on because you make a lot of money. Yeah. You know? But also, like, you know, last year was in front of my bar because I was like, you know, if I don't work this hard.
Yeah, it's going to be in front of my spot,
But then, you know, you get these great pictures in front of the Paramount, which is next to us, and then you get the statements like I just shared from this person, so it's very affirming to do it on Broadway. But this year we're looking at doing it, like shutting down the street right across from us, and it goes to towards the lake, which is like a jewel in Oakland that most people from outside of Oakland don't know about, Lake Merritt and Snow Park, and so hopefully it would all be there. And hopefully it can be community driven, and we want to encourage more people, not less, to be involved in this. Because some people don't like that a lot of these events are corporate sponsored, and it's like, well, okay, well, but a stage costs $10,000. The fencing cost, you know, so it's like
where are we gonna get this?
Well,
money?
And
so if we're gonna do those things, someone's got to provide the money. So if you're, you know, more people step forward with the money, or we're gonna go and get the money from places that are willing to support queer people from it. And actually a lot of people, some people have even stepped forward even before we've even asked for money, just when they saw the article, and it's from employee resource groups. So it's not like some tainted marketing money. It's people who are like work for these companies and say, hey, you need to, you know, people in charge who may even be queer themselves at this point, you know, be like, we need to support this, which is awesome.
That's good. Sometimes you never know where your donations will come from. You know what I mean? Like, I find that sometimes it comes from some of the least likely places or people, you know, that you, a lot of times the people or places that you think are going to do the most donating are not the ones. You will be surprised at, you know, I found that out when I ran a marathon for the APLA.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, some years ago, and you had to fundraise, you know, because I was like, I want to do something good. I want to like help, you know, the foundation. So I did that so I could fundraise money. And I found that the people who I thought were going to donate were not necessarily the ones, but I had donations that surprised me from people that surprised me. My mom raised most of the money from people that she knew. She got people from church. Like she really did, but it just really, really surprised me in such a great way. and just changed because I was stressed. And and my mom was like, "You're doing something good for people. You know, you need to not be stressed." And but it made me feel good when I started to see like the donations that were coming from certain people and like corporations. So you just never know.
Yeah,
you know, you never know where that's going to come from.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
So what else is going on at Port Bar? I hear and I have been to Energia.
Oh,
That's,
well.
you want to speak
So
a little bit about that?
right. So you know, I think I said a little bit about this last time, but I am smart enough as a business person to know I don't know everything, and I think a lot of people get ahead of themselves, like they know. And I think that's unfortunate. I mean, the way we came up with the Port Bar name was through focus groups about what people want to see in this space. The way we came up with Fluid, it was talking to people, especially younger people, about what they want to see. And so we wanted to have other people program our events. And so Saturday night is a night that other people program them. And so Energia is a South American style party. There are a lot of, you know, I happen to be with 15 years. Somebody who's Mexican American, who first generation, and a lot of programming LGBT Latino nights are all about like Mexicans, and that doesn't speak to the millions of people that live below Mexico, and so the rich cultures of Colombia and Brazil and Peru, and so. Why, when we have such large populations, are we not doing any programming for them? So Energy is one just party who you may have a bias towards because you know the promoter. But you know, I have to say we did that a couple of last Thursdays in 2021, and it was funny. The earlier parts of the nights were slow, so and you know, programming during COVID is hit or miss. It's been like who knows. We started to add a karaoke element to it, and we thought, well, we'll see how this happens. Like, we actually didn't want karaoke for a long period of time.
It's probably a hit, though.
Well, it was, but I didn't want it because passing the microphone between people really made me nervous. And, like, could we clean it? We can clean it. We can, like, actually, there's little microphone condoms, as we call them, that you can put on and change between persons. Yeah.
That was cute.
And so we've done all of that. We try to take all the precautions that we can. But it was a huge hit. It was supposed to be from like 7 to 10, and then this Energy it would start, and people were like, "Can that start later? Because we're not done singing." And
I was gonna say, you know, gay people love to sing.
Yeah.
So it's actually really funny that one of the Energy I went to, Sergio Ardila puts on the party at Port Bar with you, and we did the karaoke in the beginning, and I'm not gonna like sing or do anything. I just like to watch people. But one of his friends put his name down on the list, and I got to watch him perform "Bad Romance" by Lady Gaga, and it was a really cool moment because
of course
he
did a gay-o song.
Well, let me tell you, you know what was a great moment for me about that is that here people thought a little bit differently about him from like the regular Port Bar community, right? Because he's an outsider producing an event at the Port Bar, and he's this cute boy from San Francisco, focused on like Latinos. So maybe he doesn't care about us, which is mostly African American people who were singing that, at least that night, right? And that was the sentiment I got from that.
Of course, it was black folks. I can say, we love to sing, and we will get up there and do some songs.
Oh yes, yes. So when he did that, it was sort of like. It was beautiful because he was just like, I'm willing to make a fool out of myself just like you, or be good, right? Yeah. But like, I'm willing to do the karaoke thing. And I thought, and then people really responded to that, which is great because then I worked with him a couple weekends ago to produce a new event in San Francisco with a continuation of Love. And that we did the day before for Valentine's. And a whole bunch of my regular folk came who are not circuit people, which is great. And so that is another thing that I'm doing, and I'm doing with him. Because he has not solely, but because I'm glad to partner with him, but he has a real vision for. We were just starting tonight talking about Master Beat and GPS and so forth, and like I was saying earlier, like I've gone on the circuit scene for a long period of time, and I have to say most of the clientele there look like me, and the marketing and the drive has always been towards people who look like me. Maybe people go to the gym more than me, but people who look like me. And that has been a criticism.
That. Yeah.
But it hasn't changed. And so I really applaud him for like being somebody who enjoys it, but being an immigrant to this country and wanting to change that, right? And bringing in new talent and trying to make sure that there's space for Black karaoke singers to feel like, like if they like this beat, they can enjoy this.
Seriously.
Right.
Yes. I have a list of karaoke songs. If I were to do it, I have a list. Like, ooh, this will be a good karaoke song. Let me add it to my list. For real. You got to be prepared.
Right.
You got to be ready. Because, we all think we're going to like hit the Mariah notes when we sing. It's not going to happen. But,
but it's funny because karaoke is a great equalizer of people who can really sing that sang, and then
it's true,
but they do, and they do it with like conviction that they are Mariah Carey.
As long as you have the joy in doing it is what counts. You know what I mean? Like that's how I feel about dance. You could be the worst dancer, but if I see that you're loving it, then I love that for you.
Yeah,
yeah, definitely. No, I thought that was cool. Like when he did karaoke, it was just like kind of fitting for energy of that night because his party was coming out.
Yeah. Well, why didn't you sing, Adam?
Because that's not gonna ever happen.
No one put his name on the list, but maybe next time.
Next time we're gonna put his name on the list.
It's no longer on Thursday; it's moved to Saturday, and that's his event to produce. I know what I want and expect out of like marketing for my events, and I know what he was doing. It was so packed.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't able to be there, but I heard great things.
Wow. And for me, it's like, we live and die by our regulars, and we really want, and that is great for me because that's who I'm here to serve. Yeah. People of Oakland, the queer people of Oakland, at least. And yet that brought out so many people who I never see. And a lot of Brazilian queers and like South American immigrants, right? Who are gay, and so I'm like, okay, I don't even know if you live in the East Bay, like, but I'm so glad that you're here, right? Because they felt like this event was going to speak to something cultural in them, and that was really heartwarming to me to have him do that and to see the success, right? And so we're providing this anchor in the community that isn't currently done, right? There's plenty of Latin nights that are Bitty Bitty Bomb that are Selena impersonators and banda, and that's great because that's needed, that's speaking to community, but there's so many more other people from South America who are living in the United States as queer people who should feel something that touches them, and that does
and that music is so fun. I would just tell you I can dance all night to it. It's a really great time. But yeah, and I kind of want to talk a little bit more about Love. This is your, I guess you were saying, first circuit party type deal that you've produced or co-produced with Sergio. Yes. What I guess made you kind of get into that with him?
Him. He's very, as you might know, he is very motivating and very like captivating into getting in these things. But also, I think it's the mission of like what he's trying to do. Like I said, bring more people into the scene and make more people feel welcome through these events and make the events diverse. Like he thinks about the DJ and the dancers and what they look like and so forth, and who are they going to bring, so that it's not just basic cookie cutter, hot white muscle boy up on there. I mean, we'd love to have them on our flyers, but actually I don't think they have been, and that's not his vision. So I'm really, even though I have the experience producing events, I think that's what I lend, and I'm happy to do that. Will I do this forever or a longer period of time? I don't know. I'm happy to do this and work with this community so that when we do Open Fluid, which has a certain capacity, a much larger capacity than the Poor Part, to host these type of events, I'm hopeful that, we will do those and those people will know who I am and feel comfortable coming over to Oakland to enjoy that as much as what we're doing in San Francisco. And I think he has a much larger vision for what he wants to do in the community. And I'm just happy to be part of that now.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. It's really, really good. I went to the circuit party in Oakland during Pride Fest, and it was amazing. Yeah. And I heard the last Love in San Francisco at the Valencia
Love the Cuba Dance was great.
Yeah.
I have to say, like, again, like, you never know how these things are going to roll out. And he had a real belief that this was going to be a huge success. And I was like, well, we'll see. Right. You know, I'm in a certain position in my life where I can take risks, and that's a privilege, but it's like, well, we'll just see. Right. Like, I'm going to work hard as I am. Like, if I had 2 cents in my pocket, that's just my ethic. But, you know, if nobody showed up, I'd be okay. But oh my gosh, people showed up, and people wrote me the next day to like thank me for inviting them. And I was like, I don't even know who you are, but okay, that's great. Right. So, and it really was, like I said, such a cross section of people, and people asking, okay, what's the next event? So since I'm on, the next event will be Sunday, March 13th.
Yes.
And I had to like remember that, but and we're going to have Hector Fonseca, who is an international DJ and remixer. So I'm super excited. He hasn't played the Bay in quite some time, but I think he was just here at the Chapel like 2 weeks ago. And is, you know, if you follow him on Instagram, is somewhere every day, different, and good for him. And I kept in contact with him during the pandemic because he did not perform until 2021. Once, you know, there were other people who were performing, and we all know the parties that were criticized and so forth. And he didn't judge any of that. I don't know. I don't think so. But him and I were like texting because he was like, you know, I will just find a way to survive on Twitch or online. Yeah. Because if there are all these, hey, don't go to this event, or just don't go out, and let's like honor the guidelines that were given, and then other people are doing these events. He just wasn't part of that. And I like that. I like that that was, you know, other people did their other thing, and that's fine for them. But I like that he said, oh, this is what I'm going to do. And it might be financially impactful, but that's what he stayed with. And so good for him. And that's somebody like I'm glad to do business with, and to fly from New York and have for this event. And I think it's going to be killer.
Yeah.
Because the last event was a brand new thing. And
it was at the Valencia room, right?
It's at the Valencia room with this cool space in San Francisco in the Mission, right at the sort of edge of the Castro. And again, I mean, I produced it, but in a way I really let Sergio lead in that. And I was really pleasantly surprised. Really pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, no, I've heard great things. I went to a little after meeting with you guys just to tag along and kind of see some of the feedback, and like in general, it sounds like people just really love the energy, and it's something
they love the energy and the joy, and that's like what you go for. I mean, there are other people who are motivated by different things. Even though I've been doing this for a long time, I'm not, and although I'm trying to get investors for my new space, it's a bad thing to say that I'm not motivated by money. I'm actually like motivated by like experiences I can create. And the money, I've always believed this, and my life has just sort of turned out this way, that it turned out to be true. Like it's followed me. Like you put the intention into it. Is the intention good? Is what do you want to create? Like, and things will show up. And like somehow, like with Pride Fest last year, I wanted to do this great thing for the community because they had been failed by Oakland Pride to actually make an event happen. And I didn't think we should be let down a second year. You know, we all knew in 2020 we couldn't, but with 2021 we were supposed to. And it didn't happen. And yet, like in less than a month, maybe a little bit more than 2 weeks, we got Maya, like on the stage and killed it, and thousands of people showed up. And you know, I thought, okay, well, I just got to make this happen. You know, and so that's what motivates me, is just being able to make those things happen. And that's what we did with Love, and we expect to continue.
Yeah, people want to do things.
Actually, random quick story about Maya. I went to San Diego Pride one year, and I was at Rich's, and I had no idea that she was supposed to perform there. And I came out of the bathroom, and she was just like on stage performing, like, and I was just standing like right there, like in the front, and I was like, I can't believe Maya's here right now. I just couldn't believe it. They didn't market it very well, apparently. But anyway, that's great. I love everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
And I think unless you have anything to add at the moment, before we get to the end of the episode, we'll talk about where people can follow you and stuff. Yes. But we'll probably get into our last little segment here.
Yeah.
Ma'am, what do you think?
All right, I got the card. I'm going to read this. By the way, we're going to have to talk about Adam and I throwing an event at your Port Bar.
We would love
Yes.
that.
Maybe we can do a live podcast of some
Oh my God, that would be
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
I was just thinking that as we've been talking.
We had a
I
woman
was
run
like,
for Congress that did a podcast out of the Port Bar, so I'm happy to.
See?
Yeah.
There you
Come
go.
on down.
We're gonna have to do this. All right. I just thought this was funny, so here we go. So, ma'am, what do you think about watching a porno in a theater?
I will.
Do people do that?
I will let Sean answer first.
Well, because I'm old enough.
I knew you were gonna have something good
There
for
was
this.
a time when I was coming up that it wasn't about
You're
these
like once upon a time.
you porn clips or this OnlyFans. You had to go to a theater.
You had to make an effort.
You had to be seen by the person at the window.
Oh my God!
Slide your money outside and hide your face and slide into the. No, I'm not gonna say I've never gone to one, but you know what? So what do I feel about them? I mean, like I grew up with that. So, and you know why? And I'm happy to talk about this now. Wasn't happy to talk about it then. Is because I was a young person, like trying to figure out my way.
Right.
So I don't, it's a different world now. But for me, that was that. Like there was nowhere else to see.
It was
naked
more
men.
common back then, right?
Yeah, because you couldn't pick up your phone and find penis.
Now you can.
They didn't even really have these.
You know, you
like
couldn't-
that, like to this extent. You know.
No, you certainly did not. You did not have.
You did not have cell phones on you.
No,
Back then.
I mean you had to wait for the A&O.
Maybe you'd have one of those.
dialect to just find.
Well, that was later.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we were just like AOL, like
Right.
waiting for the damn thing to upload so you could talk to some other.
And then your friend's like, "Get off! I need to use the phone."
Yeah. And you're like, but I'm talking to this other gay kid from Kansas.
I don't know what we're speaking at.
Yeah. So, and he certainly wasn't sending you his nudes. So,
No.
So yeah, you had to go to those type of venues. But in New York City, not only did they have those, but they had the peep shows.
Yes.
And the little video booths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't get any of that growing up in Texas.
Sorry about that.
No, didn't. Yeah, right. Didn't get any of that growing up in Texas at all. But there's one a theater down the street here on Santa Monica. I've never been. I think it's called like Studs or something.
Mm-hmm. I've never been either.
Never been. I don't know, but it would be. I don't know how I would feel about going now to a theater
I don't
to
know.
watch a porn. That would be kind of weird.
Yeah, like do you invite people? Do
Right.
you just go by
Or you invite
yourself?
somebody, or like,
I just don't
go
like
do things with other people while it's going on.
I don't know that like proper etiquette for this. 'Cause
Yeah.
I wasn't a part of it when it was originally a thing.
Well, but now, how would it be now? It would be like, because I know people used to hook up back in the day, right? Like they would go and do things, but
I know nothing of this. I suppose it's possible. But yeah, I mean, if you didn't have a place to host, but it was a place to meet
Yeah.
people.
You're like, meet me
It
at
was
the
what I did not know. What I did not know, I know at least the first time I went, when I was a tender college kid, is that you'd go in there and I'd be like, oh, but at least like when you see, I mean, porn is so different now, but it's like you would see people like you,
right.
same-sex people having sex,
Yes.
and that certainly wasn't taught growing up. So that was like, oh wow, it's like,
That's what it is.
that's how that happens.
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't sure. And then whoops, what do you know along the way? There's other people like hanging outside your booth, and you're like, I think there are other booths open. Why are they waiting? Oh,
they're cruising right now.
I did not know. We didn't have the Google back then.
Didn't have the right or the grinder or anything. Well, I don't know. Now it would be, I'm not sure. Unless I was like in a bathhouse or something, they had one on in a room, and then
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of like even like some bars that are like maybe a little more
they play it in the
raunchy. They'll play
background.
porn in the background.
Yeah.
You know,
That was a thing when when I was a younger person in New York. I remember being like taking a straight girlfriend from work and being like, oh yeah, I go to bed, and then realized at a certain hour all the TV had porn on it, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I guess we are crazy people. Like, now I'd be like, whatever.
right, like okay, well,
I guess that's how we feel about
that's how we
watching
feel
porn
about-
in the theater.
Well, that's how we feel about that. I thought that would be an interesting one.
Yeah, it was. It was. Well, with that, I think that kind of closes out our episode. I am so happy you came on for the second time.
Yes,
and in
thank you.
person.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a
Yeah,
tough
the
slog online.
last time it was like I always wonder. It's nice to
It's
have
better
the
in person.
person
Yeah.
here because you can feed off the energy a little bit more.
Yes.
But either way, both episodes were great. So I really appreciate you coming here, being on. And why don't you tell people where they can follow you or contact
Well,
you,
at the
stalk
Port
you?
Bar, literally at the Port
At the
Bar
Port Bar.
is the Instagram handle. On Facebook, it's One Gay Drink. Facebook.com, One Gay Drink.
I like that.
Because we're celebrating Oakland, one gay drink at a time.
I like that.
Thank you. If you're interested in Little Me, you can find me at Sean SEAN in 510. And that's where I promote more of the independent events that I'm doing, like Love, the Tea Dance, Love the Circuit Party. On both you'll find, because I try not to, and I know you talked about this with Richard, I try not to wade into like political statements or like news so much, but occasionally you'll see in our stories anyway, things posted about community. But like Pride Fest, things that happen at the LGBT Center, we will like cross promote, or I don't know if we're not really cross, we will promote for them if I see it, and I want people to know about it in our stories and so forth. I now have somebody 21 working for me, so we have a TikTok. So you can find the Port Bar on TikTok.
Look at that. All on the TikTok. We're not even on that.
I know.
We're
I don't know. I have a personal one, so I don't know.
I
have to get it together with that. It's like
I
I
don't
feel like
know.
I feel
I
like a
don't need
little
to
bit
waste
of
any more of my time on
like a
something
grandpa when it comes to TikTok. Like, what are you doing with that?
It's starting to skew. It's starting to skew older. So it's time to jump on now because it's starting to skew older. You see what happened to Facebook. When grandma gets on, it's time to go. It's like, your grandma's on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's true.
None of my family follows me on Instagram. It's only Facebook.
Yeah. It's like, you can have me on Facebook because I don't really post anything. But like, on Instagram, you don't need to follow me on Instagram if you're in my family.
My mom does.
My mom follows me on Facebook. She did try Instagram one time and I blocked her.
You blocked your mom.
A long time ago.
Wow. Hopefully she never listens to this.
I hope she doesn't.
Poor Deborah.
I know, I love her, but she did not. Well, I'm not even. Okay, there once upon a time on
Not
Instagram.
long ago, you were a hoe.
Right. But I used to post more and,
I think in the beginning, me too.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, okay, good, Michael. This is a platform my mom's never going to see.
Yes.
Here we are at the beach.
Right, and I used to post more.
But
Here's my sandwich.
But then it's sort of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I don't actually post a lot now for my own personal.
Yeah, I post a lot less.
It's a lot less.
Yeah. Like for me now, it's more of like I'll put on stories a little bit. I post less, and I've also gone and archived a lot on my on my page. Like I've taken hundreds of pictures down. I just decided people don't need to know everything.
Yeah, I kinda
Facebook
feel like I
is
need to
rude
do
enough
that.
to remind me of stupid things I said and posted from like 10 years ago. And I'm like, oh my God.
You're like, that was so dumb.
Right? You're like, what was I thinking?
So thank God for Insta where you can archive.
Yeah, I did. I totally did that. But anyways,
Yes.
digress. But we can give our handles, I guess.
Yes, but you guys can please follow us at Adam and Steve Podcast. You can follow me at Adman2005 or Steven
At Green Eye Steve.
Yes, please follow us. Thank you guys all for listening. Thank you for being on the episode. It was great.
Thank you.
I love hearing everything that's going on in Oakland and what you guys are doing. It's really, really amazing. So hope everybody, all the garden hoes out there, enjoyed the episode. Until next time, remember that God made Adam and Eve, but he also made
Adam and Steve.
Any problems?
Pray about it.